Rick, it's nitty-gritty time in high school basketball season. We're entering the final week of play, and teams are struggling to qualify, get seeding position, and get into that Western Mass tournament.
Yeah, both boys and girls here in Berkshire County, it's a lot of fun. Some teams, as you said, Tim, have qualified. Some are right on the cusp, and there's going to be teams that are going to be heartbreakers. They're going to play the underdog role and try to knock teams out. And we've got the girls crossover coming up, so there's a lot to talk about. We're going to do it right now on This Week. It's High School Basketball Weekly.
Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
Welcome to High School Basketball Weekly. Tim Moore alongside my co-host Rick Bull. And Rick, just as we said in our opening, here we are entering the final week of the regular season, and what a season it's been so far here in Berkshire County and all of Western Massachusetts, and it's just going to keep on keeping on, as they say, as we get down to the end of this season.
Yeah, the teams that we covered, specifically, Tim, the McCann Tech Hornets, the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes, the Drury Blue Devils, and of course our good friends over at Greylock, the Mounties. The Mountie boys and girls still in contention trying to get in. Both Drury teams have gotten in, and the Hoosick girls and the McCann boys and girls are already in. So a lot of success so far up here in the northern Berkshire County.
Well, let's get right into it, Rick. Recapping the boys' action over the past week, Hoosick Valley, the Hurricanes stuck on 5 wins. They've had a real rough go of it here in this basketball season. They lost a couple of games over the past week. They got beat by Wacona 62-52. And they were led in that one by Isaiah Stubbs and Casey Meswar. But they lost just the other night, a heartbreaker to Mount Greylock.
Yeah, and I thought the Mount Greylock game was going to be a close game. I thought it might go in favor of the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes played Greylock earlier in the season, and that was a close one too. So I knew with Toby Fail back at Mount Greylock, Tim, that the Mounties were going to be in that ball game, and they pulled it out at the end, winning a close one, 69-68. Isaiah Stubbs led the way with 20. Sam Larrabee had 14. And for the Mount Greylock Mounties in the Hoosick Valley game, they were led by Derek Parrish with 21, just the freshman guard. Toby Fail had 15, and Mitch Jesuit had 11. So some pretty balanced scoring there for the Greylock Mounties.
And how about those McCann Hornets? They continue to roll on. They've won 8 straight now, Rick.
Yeah, the boys are playing really, really good basketball. They're 11-4 overall in D4. They're 5-1 in Tri-County North, just a half a game, I believe, behind Bay State, who they split with this year. And, they defeated Gateway in a lopsided game, 73-30. Bruce Davis leading the way with the Hornets for 13. Freshman Logan Davis, who's getting a lot of playing time lately, with 11. Jeremy Beanie, the senior, and Lucas Jamars each had 10. So we had Chris Bullitt on the show last week. He was very excited about the way the boys are playing, and they're really hot right now, and I think they're going to win out, and hopefully, as last year, get a pretty good seed and get a home game. Maybe even take it a step further.
I think so, and it would be great to see if McCann could do that, Rick. But the key for them is to keep on winning, take it one game at a time as they continue to march up the seeding ladder in Division 4. How about this team, the Mount Greylock Mounties? They stand at 7-10, Rick, and they've got a shot to qualify for the Division III Western Mass tournament.
Yeah, off camera, I had spoken to Coach Bob Thistle, and I asked him in a text message not too long ago, Tim, what had happened to Toby Fail, because I hadn't seen anything or heard anything, and I was figuring it was an injury, and it was a severe ankle sprain in the McCann game, in which he didn't play the overtime in that win over McCann. But they really, really struggled. It's a very, very young team over there, Tim, and Coach Thistle said to me, look, I'm not complaining because I know what it feels like, because I've lost my top player for the last 3 years. So they lost Patrick Story 2 years ago, Sean McCormick last year, and of course Toby Fail. For Toby, he's only a junior, and he was a All Berkshire pre-selection on this program, Tim, and a very good leader and a good ball player and a great shooter. So they still got a shot. I mean,
they're 7-10, and they've got 3 games left. One at McCann, and that's going to be a tough one for them. Lee and Lennox at home. So they've got a shot to win out, and if they do, they'll finish with a 500 record and they'll qualify.
That would be wonderful, yeah.
So
Coach Thistle's teams always seem to improve. Practice makes perfect over there in that gym. He really gets maximum effort out of his kids.
Absolutely. And for Drury, They continue to play well. They've had a big victory over Pioneer, and that was a game we talked about in Division 4. But both those teams, of course, they played last year in the Western Mass Tournament, and Pioneer came out on top. This is a game that was covered by Northern Berkshire Community Television. You were there for that one, Rick.
Yeah, the Blue Devils played Pioneer at Pioneer last year early in the season, very, very early, and knocked them off quite easily. There's a three by Garrett Cody, their sharpshooter, to lead scoring, but then the Drury Blue Devils just took over. Scott McGuire got really, really hot in the first quarter, draining a three, and they had relentless pressure, stealing the ball. Just Reese Reset seeing McGuire on a breakaway, and they left from start to the end. Everybody got in. They did play a little bit shorthanded. Pioneer did. They had a couple of kids in street clothes, a couple of their scores. That happened last year too. And Coach Reset knew when he got down to the cage last year in the semifinal game that it was going to be a totally different team. And should he see them again, he thinks it's going to be a totally different team. Drury absolutely dominated that game. I still think Drury is the better team, Tim, but I don't think you would see that type of margin in the victory. They won the game 84-63. McGuire with 32, Reset with 23, and Hunter Sarkis with 13. Then they went down to PHS, where it's always a tough place to play. They had beaten the Generals at home this year, but they just got nothing going offensively the other night. They shot poorly and turned the ball over a lot in a 53-44 loss. McGuire had 18, and Obilio Rodriguez, the senior, with 10. So Scott McGuire is sitting right at 13 points for his 1,000 mark, and he's very hopeful, I think, that he does it in the next game against Hoosick Valley this coming Friday.
Right, and he's had a great season for the Blue Devils. And, you know, Coach Reset, obviously not happy losing, but as he said many times, this North Division, a lot of tough games, preparing him for that tournament that he's going to be in just a couple of weeks. But our Boys Player of the Week, a new face for us this week, Rick, and let's talk about him.
Yeah, the Player of the Week for the boys is a first-year at Mount Greylock. His name is Derek Paris. He is a guard over there, and at times he has led Coach Bob Thistle's team in several games. He certainly helped take over when Toby Fail was out with his injury, and he had a huge week last week, very worthy of Player of the Week this week. 19 versus Lennox and 21 versus Hoosick, both in wins, and that's pretty good, especially like you said, when you got to win out, when you're 5-10 and you need to win the next 5 games. That's a heck of a start right there.
Yeah, I know. Coach Thistle's got to be very, very happy with the development of Paris. He's really come on for them. He was a major, major player in that game against Hoosick Valley that they won by 1 point. So our hats off to him as our Player of the Week. Now we've got a special little segment we want to do. You know, both of us have a tremendous amount of experience going to high school gyms all over Berkshire County and Western Mass for that matter. And when you go to these games, invariably you're going to have to run into, and you do run into, the concession stand. You can get refreshments, food, etc., especially if you haven't eaten dinner or whatnot. And it's, you know, we get around, we see these concession stands, all the work that goes into it. And we've got a little segment we did on the Hoosick Valley concession stand to give you an idea of what goes into putting on a concession stand at a high school sporting event.
I think collectively as a booster club, everybody agreed on the menu. So we try to stick to the popular items that sell.
Every once in a while we get something unique. This year during Coaches versus Cancer, we got chicken and dumplings. In the years past, we've had lazy gumpki. We've had some lazy pierogi. So we do get some unusual dishes, and they go pretty well, to be honest.
Usually I get mac and cheese and a purple Gatorade.
Is that a superstition?
Yes, kind of.
How do you like the concession stand?
It's terrific. It's the best in the county.
And what do you usually get when you come?
Mac and cheese.
Before games, I tend to get 2 waters and a blue Gatorade.
Do you have anything to eat?
No, not before games.
What do you think of the concession stand overall?
I think it's good.
So the proceeds go to anything from team travel, fan travel, equipment, team equipment. It could be balls, the shooting machines, the NOAA system, team uniforms, team warm-ups, shooting shirts, bags, anything really associated with the program outside of referees.
How long have you been participating with the concession stand?
14 years.
And And how many children have you had go through the program?
Booster clubs do the concession stand 100%.
How long have you been, participating in the concession stand?
3 years.
And you have a player playing on the team presently.
Yes, I have a junior.
So we use a tool called the Sign Up Genius, and it basically allows you to create a work schedule per se, right? So we create everything from, it could be gate take, could be a 50-50, concession, crock pots, clean up after the games, set up before the games, popcorn. We put all that into this sign-up system, and then we ask that the JV parents kind of do the tasks that are associated with the varsity game, and then the varsity parents come up and do the tasks associated with the JV game.
That the folks at the McCann Brewery, Mount Greylock, would contest that statement by one of the patrons that Hoosick Valley has the best concession stand. We go around and they're all really good.
Yeah, they're excellent. I eat quite often at McCann and at Drury because I do those games, and up at the Drury concession, probably the highlight that I haven't seen this year, and it's kind of going away, was Terry Bird's famous loaded baked potato. So
That's right.
I like the hot foods. I like the chilies, the goulashes, the mac and cheese. That can make for a nice dinner. But then again, a lot of people like hot dogs and pizza, but the more the merrier. But the concessions all around here are fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
And we hope you support them when you go to your local high school basketball game. Turning to the girls' action, Rick, talk about the Lady Mounties of Mount Greylock. Here they are, 8 and 9. They're on the cusp of qualifying for the Western Mass Tournament. They started off slow this year, but they have really come on. And you really hats off to the Lady Mounties in terms of their development this year.
Yeah, they're not going to finish first or second in the Berkshire South, Tim, even though they are 8 and 9. But they did make the 500 mark. They sat at 8 and 8. Lost a really, really tough game to Mount Everett the other night, 67-55. Delaney Babcock led the way, the sophomore with 23, and senior Brooke Massey had 15. But previously to that, Tim, they had won both their games this week by beating Lee 55-38 behind Maddie Ross and Delaney Babcock and Maddie Albert, and beat Southwick pretty handily 52-27 with Massey scoring 15 and Ross 12. So he's getting some balanced scoring, and he's getting scoring from kids that last year were more role players.
Right.
But he's got to play Lennox at home, and then at Monument Mountain and at Drury High School. They're tough. They're going to be tough games. But again, like the boys, it's doable. They're still got mathematically. They're still in it.
Absolutely, and we're pleased right now to have on the line with us, joining us with High School Basketball Weekly head coach of the Lady Mounties, John Jacoby. And Coach, thanks for joining us here on High School Basketball Weekly.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Coach, the question I have to ask, we talked at the Jamboree early in the season. My question to you is, how has your team changed and evolved from the first game of the year to where they are right now?
Yeah, we've come a long way. We've worked really hard in practice and in games and trying to gain confidence. We were 2-6 at one point, and now we got ourselves playing meaningful games in February, and that's all we asked for a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Coach, you've got 3 games. We've got you on the schedule, having 3 games left. Of course, you got to play Lennox at home, and you got to go down to Monument Mountain, play them in the crossover, and then of course you're at Drury. So none of those games are going to be easy for you.
No, we're actually 1-2 in those games, and we got to be 2-1 somehow. So, and the one win was Monument at home, and now we got them at their place. So, yeah, nothing's easy. The road we created for ourselves is, we lost a couple games early in the year. We might have liked that back, and there's nothing you can do about it now. So we're at 8. Tomorrow night, senior night versus Lennox is going to be huge. They just qualified to make the tournament against Lee the other night. So they're playing good basketball, and we know it's going to be a dogfight. If we can come up with a win there, which we're going to do everything we can to become 9-9, that would be huge, and it gives us 2 shots at trying to get in.
Coach, I know you don't like to single out any one player, but I did go to one of your games recently, and I tell you, I was just so impressed with Delaney Babcock.
Yeah, Delaney had 23 the other night against Mount Everett for a career high. And whatever game you saw, Delaney can play inside and out, and she's asked to handle the ball, shoot the ball, rebound the ball, and usually defend the biggest player on the other team. So as a sophomore, we put a lot on the table for her. And, she's got a lot of improvements to be made still. She's got a lot of room to grow, but she has grown quite a bit this year, and we count on her a lot. And she's had a nice sophomore year, and we know that she has the desire and the want to get better, and she's only going to continue to get better is our plan.
Coach, over the last couple of years, you've had some really exceptional basketball players over at Mount Greylock, in Jenna Benzinger and Lauren Howard. And your kids, the other kids kind of knew their roles and stepped up in whatever role that might be. But this year, what I see anyway, when I see the games and see the box scores, is you've got kids any night in and night out could be your leading scorer, but you're certainly getting some balanced scoring from Maddie Ross and Maddie Albert. Brooke Massey, who to me wasn't a scorer but did everything else for you in the past, is having a great season, and she's scoring. And of course, Delaney, we just talked about, she's our featured player of this week. So you got to feel real good about the way your kids have stepped up and probably shared the basketball, shared their duties.
Yeah, in years past, we would go through Jenna, and then last year everything went through Lauren, and this year, we don't have that go-to scorer, but we do have girls that can put the ball in the net, and every night it's going to be different. Our best games are when we had 4 or 5 girls get 8 points or more. And when we play and everybody's sharing the ball and we're spreading out the scoring, we play our best basketball by far. 1 girl, 2 maybe, get into double digits, and then get 3 or 4 other girls, 8, 9, or 10, and we're in every ball game. If we have trouble scoring, that's when we're in trouble, because some days, when you had trouble scoring in years past, you try to get the ball to Lauren or Jenna. And this year, when we have trouble scoring, we got to ask somebody to step up. And in our run to get back into contention for making Western Mass, we've had different players step up. Sierra Schwartzer has had double digits twice coming up either off the bench or she's been starting lately. And, we've had Emma Stevens had a couple games with 9. So, you already mentioned the 4 top girls, but on any given night, we have 5, 6 girls that can score 8 points or more. And then hopefully we're playing good defense and we're in the ball game.
That's good.
Well, Coach, hopefully the next time we're talking will be next week on our tournament preview show, and we're talking about the Mounies in the Western Mass tournament. We want to wish
Yeah, our tournament started like 3 weeks ago, because when we were 2 and 6, everything was a tournament game. We still have life and we still control our own destiny. Tomorrow night's game against Lennox will be huge to make it 9-9, and then have 2 cracks on the road against 2 worthy opponents. But we did accomplish a goal in having meaningful games down the stretch, and now we want to accomplish the bigger goal and get in. So we're hoping we can be part of your tournament show next week.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, and hope to be talking to you again soon when you qualify for the Western Mass tournament.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. That's
All
head
right,
coach
have a good night. Bye.
John Jacoby of the Lady Mounties. And as you indicated, Rick, our high school player of the week this year is a sophomore, Delaney Babcock, for the Lady Mounties.
Yeah, as I stated earlier, Tim, 11 versus Lee, 11 versus Southwick, and 2 wins, 25. Evidently keeping her team in there against a very, very good Mount Everett team. Mount Everett, I think, with Drury, is probably going to share first place in the South this year. But Delaney, very talented sophomore. You could see she had shines last year as a first year over there at Greylock. She had an exceptional sophomore season, and she's going to have a great career over there.
Deserving award this week for Delaney Babcock. Another team that continues to make noise, Rick, the Lady Hornets of McCann, now at 11-8, and they're trying to move up the seeding ladder in Division 4.
Yeah, Coach Kathy Budai's team, Tim, is 11-8, 4-3 in the Franklin West. They're probably not going to share the Franklin West title as they did last year with Smith Academy. Those teams are very, very balanced right now. They did beat East Hampton 42-31 behind Grace Toller's 14 and Izzy Lacasse with 11. Kaylee Tatro had 9. Kaylee Tatro's first game back, Tim, off that concussion, so it's good to see her back on the floor. They lost to Putnam 47-39 with Lacasse scoring 14 and Tatro 13. and lost a real heartbreaker to Pope Francis very, very late in the game, 52-48, and that pretty much shattered the hopes of at least the title or a share of the title this year in the Franklin West. Izzy Lacasse again with 21. She's having a great season as a freshman. But 11-8, they've already qualified. D4, still think they can make some noise, and we'll see. They've got a favorable schedule for the last couple of games.
The rest
Tim.
of the way.
Yeah.
The Lady Blue Devils, the jury had a big week this past week, Rick, and of course a big event, a big event for one of the Lady Blue Devils in particular. You were there at jury when they had the event, they beating Lennox, and they also beat Pioneer, and Brooke DeGennaro, of course, leading the way.
Yeah, they beat Lennox 47-41 on the road, so they swept both games with the Millionaires this season. Brooke DeGennaro led the way with 15, and then last week in a boys-girls doubleheader, girls before the boys, the Lady Devils beat Pioneer 62-40, with Brooke DeGennaro scoring 22, which included her career 1,000th point in the third quarter. Kayla McGrath had 14 and Haley Shook had 10, but it was a very, very special night up at Drury. It was the first time I had covered a game, Tim, where a girl was.
Jay's a three.
So she nailed that big three there.
Ripped away by DeGennaro. She's going to shoot the three.
And she's fouled. This kid's been playing under a lot of extra pressure, John.
Mm-hmm. And she makes the first one.
Point lead. She's going to get two more.
Then the pressure will be off her.
It's up. It's good.
That's it. That does it. So, when you get 1,000, get the ball and, take a picture and keep going.
Points in 1995.
Not too long from this, though, is I don't think they'll have, so anyway, we got the girls there on TV so anyway, yeah, good job, well done.
And Rick, it just seems like, there she is, it just seems like yesterday when Brooke DeGennaro was just a freshman, we were covering her, and you could see that she was going to have a great career at Drury, and she really has.
Yeah, as a freshman under Coach Jay Meehan, well, actually, it was the 8th grader for Coach Meehan. It was Brian Flagg her freshman year. She actually kept her team in the Hoosick Valley finals, Tim, down the cage. And she knocked down, I think, 3 or 4 threes in the first half. And what a lot of people may have forgotten is the Blue Devils actually had a slight lead over the Hurricanes at halftime, with DeGennaro being leading scorer. She ended up being leading scorer in the game. I think she ended up with 15. But
right.
She had told me after the game, Tim, in an interview, that Coach Jay Meehan, when she was in 8th grade, brought her over to the banner and showed her the banner and said, if you really work hard, your name's going to be up on that banner. And she did, and she plays basketball almost year-round, AAU, and she really works on her skills all the time. A very, very nice young lady from a great family, and congratulations to Brooke DeGennaro.
Congratulations is right. Another big 1,000-point moment occurred at Hoosick Valley. The Lady Hurricanes and their outstanding guard, Lexi Mercier, she scored her 1,000th point. Unfortunately, was in a loss on senior night to Pittsfield, 67 to 56. Allie Mendel led the way with 24, but Mercier had 14, including her 1,000th career point. So Mercier going to go down the lane, throws it up, not there. Oh, ball stolen away.
There it is.
Mercier, scorer. Mercier with that basket has broken 1,000 points for her career. Now stands at 1,001 points in her career.
Her family's now coming out.
She's had a great career. Hoosick Valley, of course, been on 2 Western Mass tournament teams, 2 state finalist teams, and she's undoubtedly, truly one of the best three-point shooters in all of Western Mass.
Yeah, she has no regard whatsoever for the three-point line. She's just a shooter. And she's had the green light from Coach Ron Wojcik from her freshman year on, and she hasn't disappointed. She's improved a little bit all the time, and sometimes she can get hot from NBA range, and I can't believe it, and especially that I can't even. The only game I could really single out, Tim, is the Medfield game this year.
Right.
That was absolutely incredible performance in the second half. Probably the best half of basketball that she's played in her career. But what an outstanding show! Congratulations to Lexi Mercer. Very worthy. But how nice to have them three in the same season
Right.
so far for the girls with Allie Mendel and Lexi Mercer and Brooke DeJean. All good friends, by the way.
And all outstanding high school players. Hoosick Valley, of course, came up short in that game. A very impressive performance by the Lady Generals from Pittsfield High School, and especially Lexi Garvey. Garvey, who was in foul trouble most of that game, finished up with 21 points. She's our high school's spotlight player of the week. And Rick, I'll tell you, you saw her up at Drury, which she controlled the action in the final 5 minutes of the game. Garvey, who was in foul trouble most of this game, she just was really a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, she's an exceptional player. What I like about Lexi Garvey, Tim, is that she kind of plays the center position, but she can play inside, outside. So she either goes to the post and calls for the ball, or she can take it outside and take the outside shot. She drives well, it's just an incredible ball player. So, yeah, and you're right. And it's the second time we've had her as a spotlight player because we wanted her on after her performance up at the Bucky Village Gym against the Blue Devils, as you mentioned.
Yeah, you see her here on the rebounding action. She just is. She's tall, she's lanky, she's athletic, and she is a real handful underneath that basket. And, I talked with Coach Joe Rascott after that game, and he said, she is what she is. She's one of the best big girls he's ever had in his career. So our high school player of the week is Lexi Garvey, and our spotlight player of the week, Lexi Garvey. Got some minute here, some time when we go down the end of the show here. Let's get into the rankings, Rick, as we finish up, really get to the end of the regular season, starting off with the Division IV boys. Flip-flopping in Division IV, we've got Drury, the Blue Devils, back on top in Division IV after that impressive victory over Pioneer. And you see them at 13-4. They did get beat by Pittsfield, but they're clearly, I think, the class of Division IV.
Well, we moved them out last week for 1 week and put them right back up again because we're lost, I believe, down at Southwick, and they've got a couple. Their schedules are pretty much the same as far as strength is concerned, but I still think the Berkshire County gets the nod, Drury being in the north, playing Wacona, Taconic, and PHS, Hoosick Valley, of course. Pioneer, good little ball club, even though they came up to North Adams and got beat by Drury last week. Coach Jack Brissett will not take them lightly because he knows it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season, what you do in postseason.
Right.
Paula Freire still sitting right there, 11-6, and that's a team that gave Drury a battle up in North Adams, and Bay State 14-3, and then there's a slew of teams in Division IV that are already qualified.
Division IV girls, a little bit of movement here. Again, a team that we talked just a little bit about in Division IV at the bottom of those rankings, Munson. We keep debating this, Rick. I think it's going to end up, depending upon where they fall out, Mount Everett and Munson competing once again in Division IV based upon their schedule.
Yeah, you may be 100% right, Tim. It's hard to take an 18-0 team like Renaissance and Springfield and not have them number one, but we'll see what the committee on the 23rd figures out where they should be. The other two teams, Ware and Hopkins, having great seasons, but it's hard to, sometimes you got to knock off the champ to be the champ, and that's Munson, and I like Gwen Carpenter, and I like her surrounding players on Scott Rote's Mount Everett team, and it could very well be the 4 and 5 team at the very end. We'll see.
In the Division III boys, no question, this Savage team at the top, 13-4, based not only upon the quality of their team, the quality of their opposition. They have the Division I schedule, Division II that they play all year long. They're 13-4. They're going to be the number one seed, no question about it. And you see Narragansett. I like that Wacona team. I think they're going to be knocking on the door when it's all over.
I like the Wacona team. Again, no shame in losing to Taconic. A couple of their losses to northern teams, and the only shocker was the loss at Lee, which surprised me. But those are kids on any given night, Tim.
And in the wildest division, I think the girls' Division III rankings. This is absolutely crazy. I think Wacona deserves the number one spot. We debate a little bit about who should be in the second spot. I think Hoosick Valley, Rick, gets it over Greenfield based on strength of schedule. But when it comes to seeding time in the tournament, watch out for South Hadley at 14-4 and Sabbath because of the quality of the opposition that they play.
Yeah, absolutely. Those teams, just because we talk about the boys with Sabbath all the time, doesn't mean the girls are any different. They still play that very, very tough schedule, and South Hadley's very, very tough also.
Game of the week coming up on the girls' side. This time it's Drury and Hoosick Valley, the crossover game this Saturday, February 16th at 3 o'clock at Hoosick Valley High School. Big game really for both teams. Drury would like to win, obviously for seeding purposes. Both teams have qualified, so it's all now about seeding, and that's a huge one. Join us next week, Rick, on High School Basketball Weekly. We're going to have our pre-selection show for the Western Mass Tournament.
That's going to be a lot of fun. Enjoy that every year. We'll see how good we are when we make our choices as compared to the committee on the 23rd.
And we hope to have some special guests either by phone or in the studio to go over that. Until next week, we'll see you right back here on High School Basketball Weekly.
Good night, everybody.